Welcome to the Battlefield Show. I'm your host, Sage Goodwin, and as always, I'm joined by Sammy Boy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. We're on back-to-back episodes today, so
we're
in the groove already. We're good to go.
It feels great. It feels great just jumping in and doing it back-to-back, right?
It does.
We got warmed up in one episode, now we're going right into another one. And in this episode, to kick off the final episode of 2021 for the Battlefield Show, sneaking right in under the limit like crazy. Last episode, last day of the year. So we want to kind of dive deep into our thoughts on Battlefield 2042 in 2022. So let's hop in and get started. This podcast is a production of Uplink Media Group. Uplink is a podcast network dedicated to highlighting the love and experience of gaming and pop culture. Check out our other shows, Star Wars Uplink and The Forge, the Halo Infinite podcast, as well as our YouTube channels for even deeper dives into Battlefield, Star Wars, and more. YouTube.com/Uplink podcast and StarWarsUplink.com. So let's get started with this question from friend of the podcast, Zanyu. I think that's how that's pronounced. He asks, or they ask, I have a question for you two, if you don't mind me asking. What do you think Battlefield 2042 will need to do /change/add in order for the game to have a good chance of survival? This is my first Battlefield game, and I really want it to survive. And it's a great question. Great question. I think that's what we're all asking is like, what does this game need to survive? Like, according to Steam numbers, they've lost over 70% of the audience that's playing the game. Basically, it's only the hardcore fans that are playing Battlefield 2042. So many people got burned. What does it need to survive?
I think there's a lot. I think this question could fill the whole episode, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I guess it comes down to what is like crucial and then what's, going to be beneficial, but it is not needed, I guess. The crucial stuff for me is just to, I guess, like the legacy features and just the stuff that should have been in the game. That is just the starting point for me to get the game to where it feels like a full game, because it does feel very bare bones at the moment with no like server browser and no scoreboard and stuff. So I think just getting it to that spot where it's like, okay, this is 2042. This is what the game was meant to be. That's just the start. Obviously, there's a lot more to do after that still, but that's probably the most pivotal part for me, is just getting it to feel like a full game. Because right now it does. When you're in a match, it doesn't feel like it's a beta, but when you're on the menus and stuff, it does feel like it's still in beta. There's just like a play button on the main, like All Out Warfare. You just choose your mode and then click play, and that just feels a bit like, a bit bare bones to me. So for me, that's probably the main thing, I guess, or a starting point really, is just to get it to where it should have been, I guess. What about you?
So I recently hopped back in to kind of just refresh my memory on Battlefield 5. I hopped in on I think I have it downloaded on the PS5. Yeah, we got it on the PS5. Just to remind myself of that game. I was not overly positive around that game. I ran into a lot of issues, but I went back in because so many people, as soon as a new Battlefield game comes out, the previous one is much better. So I went back and was like, okay, let's see what the heck these people are talking about. It can't be that good, right? Compared to Battlefield 2042, it definitely is that good. Hopping in, it feels just so much more. It feels complete. It feels fully featured, and I think that's something that they like you said, it needs to get to the point where you're criticizing the game for the newest skin versus criticizing the game for how it actually performs, how it actually plays, and not because of like we want to get super nitpicky where you have to really make up and really search for reasons to complain about the game, and it's just so easy to complain about this game. And I think that's ultimately why people are so sick of hearing stuff, is like there's just an endless supply. So just getting the game to the point where you can say, hey, buy Battlefield 2042, play with me, and we'll have a lot of fun. And I don't think I do not feel confident in like talking with my brother and be like, yo, you need to pay $60 so you can play Battlefield 2042 with me. I'm like, no. Yeah. But I will go on my brother's Xbox and download Halo Infinite for him because he's been lollygagging.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, it sounds pretty. I think our answers are pretty similar, and I think the community probably feels much the same. It just needs to get to the point where there's the fundamental elements of a shooter are there, and there's just a few of those missing. A lot of stuff in the game is really well done, but there's a lot of stuff that's missing, and that's for me. That's just like getting to the starting point is just I guess that it is the starting point, and they need to get to where it feels like, okay, this is now a full game. This is 2042, and now from here we get the additions rather than they're finally adding a scoreboard like that. That shouldn't be the type of stuff that we're worrying about. So pretty much the same as you. I want it to be at the point where we're essentially having to nitpick about things rather than complaining about that. It obviously should be in the game, like the scoreboard and the server browser. And
if anyone played this game for more than 2 minutes, they would realize, hey, this needs to be in the game.
Yeah.
We're going from the previous Battlefield game to where like you go to this one, it's like, this game feels like a kindergartner designed the UI, and it feels like they didn't really design it for the game to be played. So that's kind of my thoughts. Now I'm going to spice things up a bit. Something I think they should add that honestly I don't think they will, but something for the game to survive. They don't need to just do a free weekend. They need to add a free-to-play mode. They need to make Hazard Zone free-to-play because I'm going to be honest here. I have not played Hazard Zone since the game launched.
Same here.
Like, no way am I playing that mode. I'm going to go to Portal or I'm just going to play regular Conquest. I'm not even going to freaking waste my time with Hazard Zone because to me, it makes no sense for me to waste my time with it because it's honestly going to be not supported for long. Like, I'm surprised they even mentioned it in the most recent patch. Like, they actually did something with it.
Yeah. It feels like it's died quicker than Firestorm for me.
It has.
Yeah, which is crazy. I'd never thought that. Like, we saw the writing on the wall that it wasn't free, but I still thought, like, it's a bit different, so it'll last a bit longer, but it hasn't. It's died faster.
I mean, we had this conversation that we thought that we would spend the most time in Hazard Zone as the game comes out. We're like, nope, not even spent like more than 30 minutes in it.
Yeah, we played it in the early preview, and technically since the game has launched, I've not played a single minute. Like, I just haven't played it at all, because it's fun. It's a good mode, but it's the play base isn't there, and it's so bare bones at the moment that it just it's just it won't survive that. I don't see them ever like updating it, and like when we get new maps, the maps will get added to it, but they're not gonna. I don't know. I don't see them adding like big refreshing like elements to it, and like you said, I think my take on that is scrap Hazard Zone and make it a battle royale.
Yeah,
make it free and just get people in the door. That's what they need to do, because
actually put effort into making an Apex mode instead of like half butt ripping it off. Like, put some effort into it. Think about a good way that you can make a battle royale in Battlefield and fully support it, and also make it free to play. Or even maybe not make a battle royale, just make something that's unique to Battlefield, that reinvents itself and that uses the specialist system in a way that makes sense, and offer it for free. There just needs to be a way to get into the game for free. Yeah. Honestly, like, for the game to survive.
100%,
we're getting to the point where, like, Halo, one of the platform defining game for Microsoft, the thing that made people buy an Xbox, and they made the game multiplayer, free to play. You download it, it's free. And so if Microsoft, one of the biggest companies out there, and who has been a less than successful with its game platform as like a PlayStation for sure, but so much more user friendly and so much more platform. And if you play on an Xbox, you're going to just have a much better player experience than PlayStation, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Like, they made that game free to play. Like, that's just in and of itself is showing that free to play is the future. And if you don't have at least an aspect of your game, you're not going to do very well.
Yeah, it's the new. We've sort of talked about this in previous episodes, that there's like the different eras of gaming. There used to be like, way back in the day, it was just like the game launched and it had everything in it, and it was just like what you bought was the game, and that was essentially it. Then it went to like, there was DLC packs, so you'd pay $15 for a pack. It was like an add-on, like an expansion pack type of deal. That was like the next era. And then people obviously didn't like that with, say, like Battlefield, the premium sort of stuff, that the like paid element just didn't really work. And now we're moving into the free era, I think. And I think a lot of people haven't caught up. Like, a lot of companies haven't really caught up to that yet. But you look at all the biggest games for the last 5 years, and they're essentially all free. A lot of them are battle royale, so that's maybe a part of that too. But yeah, Halo doing it now is like almost forcing the hand of a lot of other companies. I don't think Call of Duty will ever do it, but that's one thing that
they don't have to. They've got Warzone.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I don't think their base game will ever be free. Yeah. But that's where Battlefield can go, okay, well, they're not going to do it, but we are going to do it. And we're going to push that boundary and get back to what they used to do, where they were the ones like, pushing the boundaries and changing things up. If they were to take that and be like, all right, Battlefield from here on out, every game will be free moving forward, but obviously still monetized. They've got to make their money. That will just get more people in the door. And we all know that the more people that play your game, the more money you will make, if it's monetized properly anyway. But yeah, that's one thing that they need the players there. They're not gonna, none of these games will succeed if they don't have the players there. Like, this game is set up really well to succeed with the battle pass and stuff, but if they've had a 70% drop off, then I'm sorry, but you're not going to make much money. So yeah, there needs to be, whether the whole game becomes free in, a year or something, that's a whole other story, but there needs to be a free area of the game that's just inviting to people, that it's like, okay, well, I heard bad things about Battlefield, but it's free, so I'll just download it and try it, and if I don't like it, I don't lose anything. And if you get the game to where it should be, then I'd imagine most people who do try it will actually like it, and then once they're in that like ecosystem, then they'll go, oh, this game's fun, I'm going to buy the battle pass. And then they are spending money. So, yeah, it's so baffling to me that they didn't learn that with Firestorm. I was one of those people, when everyone in the community, when they didn't announce the free-to-play element, a lot of people were going, oh, it doesn't need to be free-to-play, it'll have too many cheaters, blah, blah, blah. I was one of the people who was really annoyed, that was like, no, this needs to be free to play or it's going to die. And look where we're at now. It's Hazard Zone is literally dead on arrival. It never had life in it. It was dead as soon as it arrived, and that's because it wasn't free. If it was free, there would be a big player base, but there's just not.
Yeah, I really like what you said too, that Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, 1942, like in those game periods, even Battlefield 1, honestly, like they were not following the trends, they were setting them. Like to this day, there has not been a level of destruction that Battlefield 4 has. They have lost that level of technical innovation, and they're just going for size versus actual substance.
Yeah.
They really need to set up like, we're going to be a leader. We're going to be one of the first AAA franchises to do a completely free-to-play game.
Yeah.
or make an effort to really push forward the game instead of going with the trends that are now 5 years old.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that they've brought in, the people that they brought in with the announcements like Vince Zampella and Marcus Lito and stuff, they've got everything in place that, like, I mean, Vince has literally launched free games in Apex, and it's now, look at it. So it's like they've got everything they need to do, and that is something that would, like, put them back in the driver's seat in the FPS genre, I guess, where it used to be, like, they used to be, it never sold as well as Call of Duty, but it was always, like, everyone knew that Battlefield was, like, the shooter franchise where it was doing crazy stuff that no one else had done. And technically, I guess it still is the tornadoes, there's big player counts and all that, but that's not enough to... They're not really a selling point. You know what I mean? It's cool to have those things, but it's like...
And honestly, they've introduced way more issues than they definitely were.
Yeah, exactly. They need to, like, go back to the drawing board and figure out a way to, change things up and like, drop the next game and everyone goes, oh, like, this is like, crazy. Like, for example, with Portal, that was it, but it's just not been implemented properly. They've got a lot of great ideas still, but they're not doing them in the way that they need to do them for them to be successful. So, yeah, I think I could go on for hours, but I think free-to-play is the way of the future. That's the way that games are going to be in 5 to 10 years. I think that, like, maybe not every game, but I think the large majority of games are going to be free with...
If it's multiplayer, yeah. Especially if it's cross-platform multiplayer.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely, like, single-player games. Obviously, they'll always be paid, but I think that's just the way that it's trending, and it works for everyone. It works for the consumer because we kind of have no risk, so you're way more willing. It's, like, proven in the stats. People are way more willing to try something if there's no risk. I don't really want to buy Vanguard because it doesn't look that fun to me, but if it was free, I guarantee I would have downloaded it and played it. Because it's free.
Oh, yeah.
So people are going to be way more willing to do, like, to play your game. And then if your game's good, they're in the door and they're in that little ecosystem. And then that's when you can monetize the game. And if you do it properly to where it's not, pay to win and all that kind of thing. Just look at Fortnite, Apex, Warzone. They've all done it pretty much perfectly where they're making billions of dollars for a free game that no one's, like, mad about the monetization like they were with, say, Battlefront 2, where that was obviously not done properly. But no one has that issue with Warzone or Apex. No one's like, oh, this is all scummy. No, it's if you don't want to buy the stuff, you don't have to. It's just skins, so it doesn't matter. And then, so, yeah, obviously the consumers are happy, but then the people making the game are happy too because they're making billions of dollars, so... I really do think that's the way of the future, and it's the sooner they make that happen, like the better for the franchise, I think.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I just want to get to the point where, like, Battlefield as a franchise is leading the charge for different ideas, and they get that innovation back because it's definitely been lacking for a number of times. So
yeah.
I would like to see it get back to the point where, like, you can say you play Battlefield and people are like, oh, cool. Because, like, I think Call of Duty was there. Call of Duty, like, sloped down. We're like, oh, you play Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Call of Duty. And now everyone's like, oh, you play Warzone, right?
Yeah.
Like, yep, definitely play Warzone. Like, if you say you played Battlefront 2, you were like, yeah, I played Battlefront 2. Yeah, I know. Or if you played, like, Battlefield 2042 is one of those things, like, yeah,
you're almost, like,
all of the
scared
memes
to say, yeah, I like Battlefield, and everyone's like, oh, this guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about.
The shells.
Yeah.
So, like, going and looking into the future for Battlefield 2042, what are you hoping to see in 2022?
Other than, I guess, like, to get away from, like, the fixing of the game, because obviously that's just obvious, like, that they need to fix the game. That's the key part of it. But in terms of, like, the stuff that isn't obvious, I mean, a battle royale is part of it. I hadn't really thought about that until we spoke about it, but I really do think that a battle royale would be huge for this game. And I know a lot of people, battle royale is so like divisive. It's one of those things that you either really like it or you hate it. And the thing is, though, for those who don't like it, it's as simple as you don't have to play it. So I don't think there's a downside to adding it, really.
Yeah, it's not like we were like, oh, throw away all of Conquest and Breakthrough and only put... No.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be a huge like way to bring in more people. That's definitely one of the things that I would love to see. Whether it is a typical battle royale or just like, I don't know, maybe like relaunch Hazard Zone and like slightly tweak it or something. It needs to have that like really intense mode. And yeah, if it's not a battle royale, that's fine. It just needs to have something like that. So that's probably one thing that I'd love to see. And then I think just like, I don't know, just a steady flow of content, I think, and just plenty of like, you know, I really do like the whole like weekly challenges and just like having something to do in the game. That's probably my biggest want, is that even like Battlefront 2 did that really well, where every month there was an update with like new content, but then also like they would have Heroes Unleashed, and it was just like, it felt like in the peak of that game there was always, every week there was like something happening. And I think that's probably the main thing I want from this game, is just to always, like, it just needs like a vibrant community. It just needs a vibrant like feel to the game, where every week people are excited about this thing, about that thing, rather than just the only thing we're excited about is a patch to fix some stuff rather than content. Because as good as that is, eventually the game will be in a much better state, and then if we're just waiting on small patches, like, that's not really that fun. So I think I think just a big mix of like content and just like, I don't know, just like activities, I guess, just something to be excited about and to grind for and all that kind of thing is probably my main want for 2022. What about you?
I'm gonna piggyback off of a point that you made, is just kind of the consistency with it. Like, I think they've been doing a really good job of promoting on Portal, but I'd love to see that promotion expand into the whole of the game. Like, we've already seen that they're able to kind of frustratingly support 64 players with a free-to-play mode or a limited time only mode. Like, I'd love to see that turn into a main mode, but also I'd love to see more limited time only modes. Like, I think that'd be such a fun way. Like, make Conquest where everyone is McKay and basically point a middle finger to the community. You know, like stuff like that, where they really play around with the set structure that they've already built in and just have some fun. Like, I'd love to see where they do limit the amount of, maybe you can only have one specialist in each squad. Like, I'd love to see a limited time only mode of that. Like, I'd love to see some LTOs. Like, I think that consistency, but also like really involve the community. I'd love to see some features where they really support like competitive play. As someone that's been getting a lot more into esports after casting for the Calrissian Cup, and like, I've been watching the Halo Championship Series and some Rocket League stuff. Like, I've stumbled upon this world of like competitive play, and I think it's such a missing opportunity from Battlefield. Like, obviously they have a lot to get on the game in terms of like fixing it, but I'd love to see, once they do get that fixed, where they have support for competitive play, where they give people the spectator modes, they give people the opportunity. Like, I think Halo has done a fantastic job with supporting competitive play, and it's something that definitely, this is an EA-ism, because EA has never really supported competitive play, and they've really been forced into it. Especially like the closest thing they've gotten to that is with their sports titles, and that's intrinsically because sports is a competition. But I'd love to see that implemented, and I think they're so close to it. Like, Portal was almost perfect, but they didn't give us the tools to be able to do something like that.
Yeah, I think Battlefield, that's That's a great point. That's a thing that's been missing. Like, imagine watching like the World Championship of like 8 versus 8 Rush or something, where it's like really, really competitive, and you've got like
Yeah.
the top international players off going against each other. Like that stuff would be so good in Battlefield, and it's really never been there. I think I reckon in Battlefield 4 they kind of like tried it a little bit, and it just didn't really work.
It got close, but it never really got all the way there.
Yeah, so that's a really good point, that it's a bit more of a niche thing, because not everyone, the casual player base won't really pay that much attention, but those who are really interested in the game, like, look at all the esports.
But that being
there.
said, like, esports as a whole, the League of Legends Championship tournament had more viewers than the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's becoming huge. Yeah, that's the thing. They and that's the thing, like how we were saying that they should be trying to push the boundaries. Like it's a growing.
They need to lead the charge.
Yeah, 100%.
They won't get into it until it's been around for 10 years and they'll barely implement it. So I really think that that'd be great to see that charge into that, because it's such a unique aspect, like pairing a very, very traditional style of casting these competitions, but with this new medium, which is video games. And I think a lot of people don't realize how big esports are. Here locally, we live in a county that's got 45,000 people population, and our schools are now implementing esports programs. Like, it's gone to rural. So I think it's here to stay, and I think a lot more developers need to like realize that, because it's a huge part of things. Like, just the fact that you can say League of Legends, like, I don't know anybody that plays League of Legends, but League of Legends, the tournament had more viewers than the Super Bowl. Yeah. That's incredible.
It's mental, yeah. Absolutely mental.
So I think it'd be very fascinating to see them go into that different direction. Obviously, I that's not something that I'd expect to see, but it's something that I would definitely like to see. I think we're going to get to see in 2022, Battlefield 2042 get to the point where It is a fun game. It's consistent. They've ironed out most of the things that are wrong with it. I think we'll get to like a Battlefront 2.0 with this game. Yeah. But I don't think we'll see that until late 2022. But I think we'll definitely see it in this year.
Yeah, it's actually just mental how similar the games are. Even the whole like season 1 isn't starting till March. Like, March was when we got the progression update in Battlefront 2, and it's like it's all just lining up so weirdly that it's like feeling exactly the same, obviously for different reasons why they were not, why they didn't launch well, but it's that's one thing that really gives me hope, is that I know this game, the core of this game is like, it has so much potential, and if I gave up on Battlefront 2, when it launched and it wasn't very good, then like you and I never would have met. I wouldn't have 2 channels. I wouldn't be doing this for a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made so many good friends, and so like I spent thousands of hours playing Battlefront 2, and that's the thing that gives me hope with this game, is that like, it is rough at the moment, but I do think it will have that breakthrough of like, okay, we're now at the point where we should have been, and now we can start to like really push the game a bit. So that's sort of keeping me holding on. I'm still enjoying it at the moment, but I know if it stays in this state for like a year, then I'll be sick of it. But just knowing it'll get better and better over time, it definitely has me excited, just knowing that it's almost like we have another Battlefront 2 on our hands in the way that it's shaping up.
Not this again. Yeah, definitely. There's so many different similarities. I hate to keep on bringing it back to that point, but like Battlefront 2 and Battlefield 2042, there's so many different similarities, and I think they're going to follow a similar path, even with like the amount of time in between launch to the season, or where we're getting content. Very similar kind of structure there. They had a plan to follow through. And it's getting changed because the game wasn't released at a point where people wanted to buy it or play it or keep playing it. So I think we're going to see a very similar path there. Hopefully we do. Hopefully they do implement some features that this doesn't happen again. Like you said, being able to cover these games with that experience is kind of like, wow, okay, we're doing this again, round 2. But we also know from that experience that these games can get turned around. And I think that's the strength of like video games as a whole is these games grow with time and they grow with the community, and what the community wants can affect how these games are changed. And we're just seeing a level of feedback and implementations being made that we have yet to see from DICE for a long time. And I think that's a good change for sure.
Yeah, 100%. That's like the main positive for me so far, is that, yeah, say what you will about the launch and the current state and stuff, but since launch, they've shown essentially nothing but like good signs of listening, and they've put out 4 updates in the first 4 weeks and stuff. And it's like, we expect bad launches from DICE, but we also kind of expect it to take a long time to fix. And surprisingly, they've fixed quite a bit already. So that gives me a lot of hope too, that like, you know, with Battlefront 2, there was only monthly updates and it took like a year to be fixed. Whereas this game, like they've already done 4 updates. So that like maybe it'll be fixed quicker than we're expecting or whatever. So it's, I think all they can do from here, like the launch has happened and it's been bad and we all just kind of have to accept that. But all they can do from here is fix it. And I think so far obviously it's a very small sample size. So they could come out in January and mess everything up, who knows, but from what we've experienced so far, they can only fix it from here, and they've definitely done the right thing so far. So that's one of the most exciting things for me, is just knowing that we're not really used to the fast updates from DICE, and they seem to have turned that corner with some of those like back end changes, and being able to even just stuff like when something's really broken, they can just literally vault it immediately. That even just small stuff like that is a big change that we're not used to. So hopefully they just keep that up. That's the only thing that I'm worried about, is that they've sort of done that in the past with like seeming like they're going to do really good things, and then they kind of don't end up doing that. Battlefield 5 being a prime example, it looks like that game was shaping up really, really well, and they cancelled support when it finally got good.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not a guarantee, and that's the only little worry for me. But yeah, everything, I can only go off what they've shown, and everything so far is showing good signs at the very least. So that's one exciting part for me.
I think, too, to add to this conversation, something that I would love to see them do is I would love to see them keep up this level of support. Like we got, like you said, 4 updates in 4 weeks. I'd love to see, maybe not a weekly update, but I'd love to see that kind of commitment to updating this game as quickly as possible. I'd love to see maybe every other week we get the big update that fixes a bunch of patches, that fixes all of these things, that adds content. I'd love to see that cadence kept up. If it is if it is able to be kept up. Hopefully there isn't a lot of crunch. I know crunch is something that is a huge part of the game industry, and something that sadly it happens a ton in tech in general. So I'd love to see this game keep up with that fast-paced, really good communication, feedback, implementation, but like find a way to make it sustainable. Bring back all the people you took off the stupid project to fix this game.
Yeah.
Don't let them off so easily.
Yeah, that's one thing that they really need to, like you said, maybe not weekly, because I think that would be at the point where that's like they're biting off more than they can chew kind of thing. But if
that
like,
was the plan for Battlefront 2.
Yeah. If they could do it, say every 2 weeks there's an update, and they don't need to be like huge, but every 2 there's an update, and one is kind of like a smaller, just a general patch for, you know, the most important issues, and then the second one of the month is like I'm sure they'll add little bits of content in each season. So like maybe a new weapon and 3 new skins and a few more small like patches. That type of stuff, like that's not a drastic amount of content and updates, but it's like just the consistency of it is what I really want. If we know every few weeks we're getting something, then that's better than nothing. Because that's one thing that like with Warzone, there was just like no real consistency. There was consistency in terms of like content, but there was times when you'd go a month without them fixing like the most important. There'd be like weapons that were like a 2-shot kill, and everyone was like, "Please nerf this. It's obviously broken." And it just went like a month without them fixing it, and that can really kill the vibe for a lot of people. So I think once they get people in the door, you just got to keep them happy. And that's, hopefully they can just try and do that, and just, they don't need to put out 100 fixes in every patch, but just try and, just stay on top of the important stuff and keep it consistent. And I think that would be it would go a long way, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like really involve the community too. I think would be great. Just kind of like those limited time only modes. Portal really highlighting some community stuff. I'd love to see an update brought to Portal where they could actually feature more on Portal. I'd love to see multiple modes from the community set up in the official rotation that would keep the servers there. Or honestly, I'd love to see maybe 4 that rotate and then 64 player rush kept there constantly. I'd love to see Gunmaster officially there consistently. Like, you don't have to wait, because that's one of the issues that I find with Portal is like I was loving this one person's design for Gunmaster, and then the next day I tried to find that one person, the server was gone. There was another Gunmaster server that was close, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. It was a little too chaotic and didn't really capture the original Gunmaster feel. Like, I still played it, but I was like, man, I wish I could have played that other one. Or maybe they're in a time zone that, weirdly, Gunmaster in Japan, I think, is super big, because going into there, from the amount of ping that I have and friends in the UK have as well, like, it's got to be Japan or Australia or something.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see some of those official things go more.
Yeah, I think it's something that they mentioned when they announced Portal, that like they were going to really focus on showcasing the community's modes. And like, you know, they've done Jack Fragg's mode, they've done Stoddy's mode, but they're creators. I was thinking they were going to showcase like random people. Like, I think that'd be sick to just have. Surely they have all the data of like what mode's been playing the most, and if there's one server that some random person's just set up and it's like really populated and everything, like it's got good retention and people are in it for hours, showcase that. Like, I don't need it to be as great as it is to have creators in there. I don't need it to be creators. Like, I want to just find some random dude's freaking awesome game mode and have that showcase. So, like you said, I think adding more tiles to that home screen and even having like categories. So you've got at the top, you've got their modes, like what they've currently got, like Battlefield 3 Conquest, for example. They can have all that there. Then have like, you scroll down and the next layer is like, check out these community made Gunmaster modes, and it's all the Gunmaster modes, and some of them are shotguns, some of them are every gun, whatever, and they're all made by community members and stuff. And just have like, just have have it like Netflix, where it's just like a million things you can scroll down, different categories, and then when you go into that category, there's just heaps of servers there. I think that would be a really good way of showcasing everyone's, and it would, you know, if they're not going to add persistent servers, at least that way is a bit more of a permanent feeling mode. Even if it's not a permanent server, at least it feels like, oh, that's always going to be there, or at least it's going to be there for like the next couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah, it can be a lot more reliable in a way, because I think that's what Portal is really missing. And like you said too, it'd be great if me or you made this really awesome mode that got a lot of traction, or just some random person, honestly, that has like no connection. They just had this great idea. They could get featured, but it's not to that point yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of one thing that, like I said, I was kind of expecting that, because that was the way that they like worded it, that they were going to have like the community spotlight type of thing, and it turns out I guess that's just like creators, like the big YouTubers and stuff. But and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that both of their modes have been sick, but yeah, I would love for it to be more just based on anyone rather than just creators, and just have yeah, because like I'm sure a lot of creators who get theirs showcased will have some really awesome modes, but I think random people are a lot more like creative, because people will just spend a whole day just like on a weekend just figuring out a mode, whereas creators probably don't have as much time to actually work on it. So I think the general play base has a much better chance of making some crazy modes that we've never, like all the people, you know, we've seen people make like that wingsuit freaking
I was
thing.
about to say that should have been freaking highlighted.
Absolutely, yeah, stuff like that. That's what I'm after. I don't need it to be a perfect mode, or just something crazy. Just give me like the weirdest stuff you can. That's like not even necessarily the best, but it's like pushing the boundaries the most, like the wingsuit stuff. And I've seen that guy made the like aim trainer. Like I don't know if you've seen that, but that like those type of things, that's what they should be like focusing on and showcasing, because that's the true potential of Portal, and I think they should make the most of what the community's kind of doing with it.
I agree 100%. It definitely seems like I think we honestly, we're talking about 2022, but we haven't even talked about kind of the future plans for Portal, because they said they have a whole year of content for Portal planned as well.
True, yeah.
Ripple Effect separately. So I'd love to see, honestly, like, dude, if they add Battlefield 1, I'd be the happiest person in the world. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh, that would be... That's like one thing it's missing, because obviously like Battlefield 4 isn't there, but I guess like Battlefield 3 is close enough to it.
Yeah.
And then same with Battlefield 5 and 1942. Like they're both World War 2, but World War 1 isn't there, and that game had such a unique like atmosphere to it that if they could add that back in and have... I remember last week we were talking about like the HUD looks a bit stupid with old weapons, so if they could add it back to like the legacy UI and stuff, that would just be so much fun. I would love that.
Yeah, same. Like I would love to see something like you said, we've got Battlefield 3 is close enough to Battlefield 4 that they don't necessarily need to add it yet. I think the first edition should be something that's not represented in the game.
Yeah.
Battlefield 5, they've already got World War II content, and arguably, in my personal opinion, I think they've got better World War II content than what they would be adding with Battlefield 5. So I don't think they necessarily need to add Battlefield 5, especially since it's not... You can still go back to Battlefield 5 and find servers for now.
Yeah.
They've actually gone to the level where some Battlefield servers are more populated than 2042 servers, which is wild just in and of itself. But like I've tried. As soon as the free weekend for Battlefield 1 ended on Prime, like it's impossible. Again, like the only ones that are available to me are the ones in Japan. Weirdly enough, those games are Battlefield games are apparently very popular in Japan. I'm finding just by in terms of people still playing those older ones.
Yeah.
But like it's so hard to currently find a good Battlefield 1 game, like to where you aren't lopsided in terms of balancing, or that there are actual people there, and you like I've started even servers that are going through the official queue and they don't load up. So I think it's at the perfect time where it's been 2015 or 2016 2016, right?
For Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2016 it was.
So 2016 is about 5 years. So if going close, depending on what time that they added next year, it'll be going on 6 years since they've added Battlefield 1. So I think it's the perfect time to be able to be like, yo, Battlefield 1's coming back. We're getting playable servers again. Like that'd be honestly such a huge moment for me personally.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be perfect for Battlefield Portal.
Yeah, 100%. I would. That's probably the content that I would love the most, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe after that, I think if they added some Battlefield 4 content, I think people would love that. I think in terms of the hype, I think it should be Battlefield 1 as quickly as possible, Battlefield 4 content to take some of those favorite maps, make sure that Metro is there. I think the Battlefield 4 version of Metro is great. I think that would be good in terms of like, because this game has to have Metro in it. Like every Battlefield game has Metro in it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the hierarchy for me. Battlefield 1, Battlefield 4. I would also be happy if they added more content from the existing games too. I think probably the kind of the lowest fruit is new maps. I think I'd love to see more maps. Because especially as we get longer into the life cycle of Battlefield Portal, we're going to see some of the maps not be, or get a little stale, I'll say.
Yeah, that's the thing with like, as great as it is that they've got those maps in there, because we've all played them so many times over, it's fun to like revisit them, but they will they'll probably get boring way faster than the 2042 maps will, just because we've experienced them for so many hours already, so... It would be great to see. I think maps is like if they never add another weapon, I'd be fine with that as long as we get some maps and stuff. That'd be the stuff that I want the most, I think.
Honestly, like I know I just said I'd love to see Battlefield 1 stuff. Like, while that's like my dream, and I'd be so happy with that. I'd also be very happy if they just added more content, like more maps to the existing games that they've got there. I'd love to see more Battlefield 3, Battlefield 1942, and Bad Company stuff in there as well.
Yeah. 100%. Like and their reasoning behind choosing those three games, because they're kind of their own little eras. If they just want to stick to those three games and not bother with Battlefield 4 and stuff, then I'd be fine with that as long as we get some new stuff in Portal. Because otherwise, I do think, because of the way that it's currently set up, I do think it has the potential to die off pretty quick if there's no, updates to it and stuff. So yeah, as long as we get some level of content. I think I'll be happy enough with that, but we'll just have to wait and see. They've said they're adding stuff, so it'll be interesting to see what it is.
I'm really looking forward to it, man. I think ultimately 2022 is going to be a great year for Battlefield, and I think fans are going to really appreciate where it's going to go. I'm looking forward to it, at least.
Yeah, I think it's 2021 obviously wasn't great for Battlefield, and I think that the good thing about it, like we've sort of touched on, is that they have done pretty well since launch, and I think that bodes very well for next year. That the game launched poorly, but I think it will improve a hell of a lot over 2022, and I think that by like this time next year we'll all be going, this is now a good game, like this is where it should have been. Obviously it's no guarantee they could just go to after this, but I think their track record with
Battlefield 2042 cancel.
Yeah, I think their track record is at least, their track record with launches anyway is not good, but their track record with live service is generally pretty good, and they're showing even better signs now. So I think it's been a rough start for sure, but I think next year will be hopefully a really, really good year where there's hopefully not too much like drama and not too many issues and stuff, and we can just get back to where the franchise should be, hopefully.
Yep, I agree. But I think with that, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Battlefield Show, not Battlefield 2042. Last episode of this year. Greatly appreciate all of your support as we launch this new show. We so much look forward to 2022 and what it brings for the podcast. So we appreciate you all joining us for this journey. Officially over 6 months of the podcast, so it's pretty good so far. Crazy to think of the time. Where has it gone? I don't know. Feels like we just recorded the first episode.
Yeah. It's been a freaking blur, to be honest.
Yeah, we had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But thank you all so much. I'd like to thank you again for listening, and Ethan Clark for the awesome thumbnail for the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, we'd greatly appreciate you leaving a review on iTunes, Apple Podcast, now Spotify. So we'd love to hear your thoughts and get a review from you on there as well. And as always, we'll see you on the battlefield.